Hello and welcome to the Marvel Plus podcast, the show where we talk the Marvel shows on Disney Plus and how they connect to the MCU. My name is Bret, aka Enigma9011, and you can catch this podcast every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern. You can chat along with us and theorize. If you're a sub over there, we'd love to know what you're thinking about the show. If you can't catch it live, that's A-OK. You can go over to YouTube and SoundCloud the very next day at 12 noon Eastern on Monday and listen to the episode as well. Let us know what you're thinking in the comments, and we might bring it up on the very next episode. But yes, we're continuing Loki today. We're talking Loki episode 2 titled The Variant. Show is still keeping the ball rolling. Things are cooking kind of in a way, as we'll learn later in the episode. Kind of things are moving fast in a way. But this episode, there was a hell of a lot of information that they're kind of going to drop on us. Almost so much so I don't know if I've caught all of it or what stood out really. Like the main stuff might be the only stuff I bring up, but like a lot of info is dumped in this episode. And we learned some cool things that we kind of theorized about in episode 1. So let's kind of get right on into it with our summary, point by point thoughts as we went. So we start in Wisconsin. We get a little Renaissance Fair in 1985. We see some more of the Time Cops, the TVA. They're investigating a problem there. They show up in the tent. Turns out that the captain gets a little mind control on her, and she kind of takes out the rest of the troop, which didn't last very long at all. And we see that the evil Loki has then taken the commander from there. They were unable to reset, so we start to see more of those red branches, going off of the sacred timeline, as we've talked about in the last episode. Let's see. So we get that as our opening for this one. We cut back to Loki, and we see he now has a desk, part of the TVA, and he's talking to his little digital clock friend, which we also saw in episode 1 through that little video package explaining what the TVA is, what's going on, what they, how they try and keep everything in line. So he's working, trying to help out, figure out where the variant is, how he can help, stuff like that. So with this, we also learned that there have been a lot of different variants that of Loki himself that have shown up with a varying amount of appearances. Now, with them showing this kind of hints at something that will happen later that we talked about, of the weird variant, how they did not show an appearance. So we kind of get to see that, along with seeing all the different other variants of Loki that they've dealt with in the past. They kind of bring up his power set or his move set a little bit, and they kind of talk about the difference between illusion projection and duplication, and how they're two different things. Thinking back on it, like, this is a pretty big point that they're going to call out in importance. I'm not sure if it's a thing that, like, each of the different Lokis can do, like, their ability varies, or if this is going to signify that maybe Loki only has one specific thing, whether it's the illusion projection or whatever it is, and then someone else can do the other power. So I just thought it was interesting thinking back that they specifically brought up the two, like, no, they're not the same thing, they have differences, and so on. We also learn why our Loki, why he is motivated in order to help the TVA agents, Agent Mobius and so on. If he helps them figure out how to deal with the variant Loki that they're chasing after and is giving them problems, he will have an audience with the Timekeepers if they're successful. So we now know his motivation for that. We talked about maybe the possibility of him being motivated to take over the TVA, which was brought up in episode 1, potentially. We'll have to see if that continues to be the plan for him, if it is at all. Um, we also learn as we're going through this that if an event happens, an event nexus, I think is what it's called, where they don't properly use the reset bomb thing, they can't travel to a time prior of that bomb going off. So, for example, Variant Loki does what they do at the tent. They take out the guard and they leave. They can't time travel just before that happens to stop that event from occurring. So, like, that timeline or that event is essentially removed in a way, and, like, that split is a no-go, if that makes sense. So they have to figure out, like, how to handle it differently. So, let's see. From here, Mobius meets with the judge that we saw in episode 1 in the little courtroom. A little funny sidebar. There's a little coaster shout out to use it on the table. Thought that was funny. And we learn Mobius that thinks that Loki will change, but everybody else that he seems to talk to say that he won't change unless obviously the timekeepers say it or, like, make it so. So kind of question that free will more. After his little meeting with the judge, I forgot, I think it was just talking about Loki's involvement, trying to have him help out. He also brings up, like, what the point of finding the Loki was. It was like a superior version of himself, and Loki gets a little competitive about that, saying he's the best, but obviously he's not. I'm a little jealous of there. Mobius also brings up control of the TVA to Loki specifically. Just quick there. And then we also had an Ice Giant reference at some point during their chats. So a little callback to Loki's origins there. Let's see. I know we're hopping around fast. So then the main thing they're trying to figure out, like I said, is how is they're going to get a lead, or how they're going to find the Loki variant, kind of get a head start. So they're going to do some research there. In Loki's research, he kind of learns about Ragnarok happening, the third Thor movie. And he kind of figures out that maybe the variant is hiding in these apocalyptic events. He brings up the, I think it was Pompeii they went to. He brings up that and how, like, the event is going to happen regardless, the big event of the volcano exploding. So whatever happens just before that said event doesn't really matter. Nothing's going to stop or change or modify the volcano from exploding. So he's thinking that maybe the variant is hiding in these areas because those disturbances of the timeline or those changes won't really notify anybody because the big thing's going to happen anyway. There was a little bit more info, but specifically about the Asgard and the Ragnarok one that I kind of noted down. It was a Class 7 apocalypse. There was no variants detected, and there was 9,000 that died from that. So there's that. Let's see. Chaotic altercations of a predetermined outcome. Yep. So Pompeii. Let's see. So we kind of learn more about the big events, the variants plan. Was smart on hiding during big events. Yeah, for sure, because it kind of acts as that cover for them, for the variant to do whatever they want to, because like I said, it's not going to bring up any red flags of events happening. After this, we kind of get a little bit more, not a heartfelt talk, but more of a one-on-one with Loki and Mobius, talking about, like, what Mobius specifically believes in and why he has so much faith in the TVA. And Loki's really bringing up a lot of interesting things and questioning Mobius through that. Through Mobius's, like, depiction and description of, like, why he believes in the TVA and, like, how they're right, I was kind of questioning if it was almost like, it almost seems like the TVA in a way is like a religion. Like, there was a lot of, like, well, it just will happen because I believe it kind of thing. So I just thought that was interesting that they brought this up like the uncertainty, if that makes sense. So I wonder if they're going to play more and more with that as we continue with the series and the rest of the 4 episodes. But just a weird little sidebar there before kind of continuing on with the variant stuff. I think one of the quotes he mentioned is, "It's real because I believe it's real." Yeah. Let's see. So they used Pompeii kind of as a test period to see, like, test the theory of the variants and the apocalyptic events. So now they're going to circle back to the gum that was given to them by the small child at the church in episode 1, and they're going to kind of see where the overlap is for the gum existing and some big event happening in the apocalyptic scale. Turns out it's going to be Alabama 2050. There's a Category 8 hurricane. RIP to the future people living in Alabama. 10,000 casualties. So it's a big one. So they decided to go there. One thing I noticed, I mentioned it earlier with Ragnarok. Ragnarok was a Class 7 fucking apocalypse. This hurricane's apparently a Class 10. I don't know if this is like where the scale goes, if it's like the higher number is bad or the higher number is worse. You know, like, or better. I mean, they're all shitty events. So, like, is one like, oh my god, this is the worst, or is the higher numbers the really bad ones? I want to say the higher numbers are the bad one, because, like, Ragnarok, where the whole planet blew up and died. This is the hurricane. I don't think the whole planet's blown up or something worse is happening. So just thought that was odd. Took some notes there. So we go to this event in the future. Well, future to us, the audience. We notice that Loki has given his knives back to quickly have them taken away. So that doesn't really, it didn't really matter. But Mobius is really trusting of Loki that he'll do the right thing. The head of security, I don't know her name off the top of my head, but she is just not having it at all. So we see that. We are placed into a store called Roxcart, essentially a grocery store, I think, or some kind of like superstore. I was wondering, this is a sidebar tangent, I wonder if it's tied into Roxxon at all, which I think is like a pretty big villain group in Marvel, unless I'm totally wrong with that. I don't know. I think that's there. But like I said, that's a total sidebar thought. I don't know if that's actually anything. We also noticed that his magic is back. They were getting rained on from outside, obviously with the hurricane. Loki dries himself off immediately with new clothes, so he has his magic back. Obviously, as we're off of the TVA planet, he's not being controlled there. We see them enter through some store cameras. Someone's watching there, and we see a bomb set for about 20 minutes, it seems. So as they're investigating, the group decides to split off. They're going to try and find the variant. We find a random dude shopping for a hurricane sale. Turns out this guy is mind controlled by our variant Loki. Takes out the head of security, and I think she was actually possessed as well at one point. It seems like from body to body, like the one that's being mind controlled will pass off the control to the other. The original will become like unconscious, and then the new body kind of takes from there. So interesting that the variant Loki swapping bodies from person to person. So yeah, Loki and her chat a little bit about like the variant's motivation. Swap bodies a few times. So it seems like their plan is to overthrow the Timekeepers. I wasn't sure. Our Loki seemed to be trying to trick the variant Loki by like talking it down or figuring out what was the plan to either stall or stop it. I don't know. So he's talking to the variant through the body, the mind-controlled body. And we get a very interesting little note. I'm not sure if it's just toss away, but the variant, the mind-controlled part, the variant, says, "Don't call me Loki." Interesting. There's some internet theories that I'll bring up later, guessing as to why this would be said. So we got that. There you go. So yeah, we got that. We learn more from the variant, and it turns out they're not actually interested in ruling the TVA. And they just kind of give away the location of the timekeepers. Through this conversation, we'll eventually get to the real body, quote unquote, the real persona of the variant Loki. We see the hooded figure. The hood is removed. Boom, we were right. It is a female version, a lady version of Loki. All right. So, booyah, in your face. I win. No, just kidding. So, really cool to kind of see that theory come together. Maybe it's disrupted later. We'll chat about that. But that was fun. So, with the identity revealed, we noticed that what her plan is. She mentions it's not about you, to Loki specifically, and we see that the timer has gone off on the bomb. It turns out there's a bunch of reset bombs that the TVA has used that she's been slowly collecting, as we've seen in episode 1 and episode 2. They're all being set off. With all of these bombs being set off, it causes pretty much a spider web, essentially, of just a shit ton of red pathways from the sacred timeline splitting off, trying to cause this big Nexus event. There was a big list of places that were included in there. I noticed Titan being one of them, which is Guardians of the Galaxy tie-in, and Asgard being one of them. Not sure if that's going to be any importance, just there was a list of names. I noticed those two stood out. We get the bomb set off. Mobius trying to catch up and run after Variant Loki and our Loki. Variant Loki opens up a time door thingy, walks through, and our Loki will proceed to follow her in, and that's where the episode is going to stop. So, oh boy, we get quite a bit of info here with obviously Lady Loki's intentions in a way of not taking over TVA, just kind of causing something, whether it's this multiverse Secret Wars type event, the Nexus event like we talked about, or whatever it is. But now we have no idea what Loki's intentions are, of if it's still to stop Lady Loki or if it's to just cause chaos with her. So we got a kind of big cliffhanger there. Like I said, this episode was very info heavy. I know I definitely didn't talk about all of it. There was a lot. So this might not be a bad one to rewatch, especially heading into episode 3 this week to kind of see. Obviously, we talked about some of the points with the powers and the intentions of Variant Loki and our Loki, but kind of just seeing what else you can pick up on with that. So yes, I'm not 100% sure where we're gonna go from here. I'm not sure our Loki's intentions. It seems like he definitely wants to talk to the timekeepers. He wants to be put back into, the sacred timeline. He wants to be returned back to that. I don't know if it will benefit him more to go the Agent Mobius route, where helping and just having the conversation with them will help, or if he's going to kind of like high risk, high reward it, where he attempts to take over the TVA. I don't know if that would be too much chaos, because then obviously he's got to figure out how things work there. So there's that. Then we also get the question of, like, with Lady Loki setting off all these reset bombs, how do we fix that? How do we fix that and return things back to a sacred timeline? And then also, like, how, if this ends up replicating the original event we kind of referred to in the animated like intro video. If that ends up being replicated, what is that going to cause? Are we going to see the Secret Wars stuff where we start seeing people from different timeline, multiverses, etc. join into the story? We'll have to see. We talked about it last episode where like we're going multiverse heavy in the next series of movies and whatever, like teasing and stuff. So like at some point shit's got to hit the fan, right? We just can't keep like mentioning it without nothing happening. So that'll be interesting. Maybe we'll learn that the TVA isn't really all that important, and like this sacred timeline is just like their way of having a grasp or control on things. Who's to say? So I mentioned a little internet theory going around with our Lady Loki, that variant. So I mentioned the quote of like, "Don't call me Loki." We had that. There seems to be a small theory going around that maybe this Loki is actually not a Loki, and it's actually the character Enchantress from the comics. Now, the reason people are saying this, obviously that line in the credits, the actress is credited with a certain character name that kind of ties more into that. So I'm not sure if this is actually going to be Enchantress or if this is just like a way of kind of like, haha, Easter egg, nudge, nudge, wink, wink. If you know, you know. And it still is the variant Loki. We'll have to see where that goes from here. It could be like the TVA is mistaken because the moveset is so similar, and that's why they talked about it in this episode of the projections versus the duplications of like, no, I can't do X, but I can do Y, and they're different because this. Like maybe they don't understand that it's a different person entirely. And then it leads to the question of like, why don't they realize it's a different person entirely? If this is the case. If so, is Enchantress, maybe she's from a different multiverse that isn't part of the sacred timeline? Maybe that's where the confusion comes in? I don't know. A lot of questions kind of get picked up from that. Because you would think, as the TVA, you would know everybody, name, you know, their whole story, essentially. So I don't know why an outlier like this would be present that they wouldn't know about, if that makes sense. But appearance-wise, she looks cool. We do notice she has a similar horn helmet to Loki, so that could just tie in with episode 1 being referred to the devil with the kid in the painting. I did notice that one of her horns is kind of missing, though, on her helmet. So I don't know if, you know, the kid was just like, oh, it's close enough to the two-horned devil, and that's just supposed to be like a, not a red herring, but kind of like a spin-off thought for us as the audience to think about. But I don't know. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where the episode goes from here with episode 3. Obviously, it will be big on Loki figuring out, like, what the purpose of Lady Loki is, what her mission is, what her vendetta, what her objective is. I'm curious to see if next episode Mobius can somehow reconnect with our Loki, or if it's going to be maybe a episode 4 thing. It's curious to figure out. Also, I wonder, with the resetting, the multiple bombs, and the branching we got, I wonder if the timekeepers are now going to come into play. Like, are we going to see them step forward or take some kind of action in some way, shape, or form? Or is this going to be a power broker situation like Falcon and Winter Soldier, where we never see them, but they're always kind of mentioned and present, like that over-looming threat, even though we don't know they're the threat, but just like that shadow or whatever you want to call it. And we won't get a reveal or like any info directly tying into them until episode 6. Like that's our cliffhanger or our finish or whatever. It's hard to say. Yeah, I don't know. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Like I said, it's a lot of info to kind of keep track of, so I would recommend checking it out again. I don't know how I want to handle moving forward with this series. Episode 1, I watched Sunday right before recording, so it was fresh. This one, I watched the night of, morning of, however you want to think about it, like an hour after the episode dropped on Disney+. I liked that method because obviously I didn't get spoiled like episode 1 with the Infinity Stones and the Loki variant. Or no, it wasn't that. It was something else I got spoiled on. Don't remember. Obviously not getting spoiled thing is great. But I feel with that almost week after, I don't remember things all as well as I would like to for the recaps. So I think what I might do is I'll have to watch it twice. Maybe I'll watch it, obviously, night of when it drops to avoid spoilers. Still do my notes of, thoughts as I'm going. But then maybe I'll rewatch it Saturday night or Sunday at some point before recording just so it's fresh for the recap. So we can talk about, as much as we can and hopefully not miss any big story beats there. Let's see. Doop, boop, doop, boop, boo. Lady in Wonderland says, I feel like Apocalypse is kind of an all-or-nothing term, not one that you can give levels to. That's true. You would think. But yeah, I don't know. I'm really confused on the number. Mrs. G thinks the higher number is the worse one. Is that what higher number is the bad one. So yeah, my question was that, with that, is like, if Category 7, Ragnarok, the whole planet blowing up, is...
What's worse than that?
Yeah, like, is the hurricane blowing up the planet or doing something like that? Like, we don't know the fate of Earth. Maybe that is the case, but like, that just confuses me a little bit there. Could be the case, unless we're gonna go multiverse theory. Then Avengers 2099 would never happen, but then again, that might not be the 616 timeline. Who knows? So there was that. Miss G also mentions, I rewatched episode 1 and still kind of drifted, missing Agent Carter not flying as well in the series. Oh, that's okay. That's even if it was Agent Carter. That could have just been internet speculation. JC and I talked about that off stream a little bit. He doesn't think that's the case, which I get. It's very quick. Like, if you're not looking for it, you'll miss it. It's when Loki escapes and has the little time turner in his possession. You can see her in the back right corner in one shot when he zips in. And like, if it's her, it's a very similar haircut. You don't get a clear shot of her face. I don't know. So I don't know the traction with that. I think another theory I saw online. Oh crap! Before I bring it up, do I have it or did it escape my thought? I mentioned the 616. So in the comics, there's different multiverses. There's Earth 616, and then there's some other ones which I don't know as well. 616 is like your main timeline, canon, whatever you want to call it. Someone online did make the funny note that before this branching happened in this episode, the episode was released on June 16th, 616. So that was just a little cheeky, like, kind of thing. You wouldn't notice or pick up on unless you knew these things. So just a little cute fun fact there. But yeah, hope you guys are still enjoying the series. A lot of things going on. It's going to be interesting to see what our Loki decides to do, whether he's going to go the selfish route and just go balls to the walls with trying to take over TVA, or is he going to go the Mobius route and try and help him out, or even is he going to learn something from the variant and be like, oh shit, TVA is a lie, or they're controlling this somehow. Like, we got a lot of factors to think about with this upcoming episode of like how we're going to continue from here. But we don't have much longer to think about it or wait about it for it. Jesus words. Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, however you want to think about it. We got episode 3 coming out. So make sure you guys do your homework. Watch episode 3. Let me know what you think about this episode in the comments below if you weren't watching live. be happy to bring that up next episode, and we'll have to see where the series goes. But this has been another episode of the Marvel Plus podcast. My name is Bret, aka Enigma9011, and appreciate you guys joining in today to talk some more Loki with us. If you want to catch the podcast live and chat with us live, you can go over to twitch.tv/Enigma9011 every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern. You can join the chat like Mrs. G and Lady Wonderland did today if you're a sub over there. If you can't catch it live, that's A-OK. You can catch it the very next day where it's put on YouTube and SoundCloud as one big video in MP3 for your amusement at 12 noon Eastern. You can share in the comments all your thoughts over there. Love to have them, or love to read them and bring them up next episode. And then, yeah, that's it. That's it for us. Appreciate you guys watching and listening to this episode. Hope you guys are enjoying the series so far. Hopefully we can see more crazy, zany stuff, but hopefully it makes sense and we can start getting some answers as we keep going from there. But yeah, thank you guys for hanging out. Thank you guys for listening and watching, and we'll see you guys on the next one.